Spend less on groceries, fresh produce, and meat.
Spend less on electronics, TVs, and speakers.
Spend less on home furnishings, beauty products, and apparel.
At Priced Right, we believe you can live better for less.
To start saving, visit us at the Airport Center in Georgetown or at Republic's Plaza in West Bay.
For more info, visit pricedright.ky. Live better for less at Priced Right.
It's trivia every Wednesday from 7 o'clock at Sandbar on the Georgetown waterfront. Your chance to win some fantastic prizes in our free-to-enter Trivia Madness. Great offers on beer buckets, margaritas, and a delicious menu served throughout the evening. Grab your pals and get along to Sandbar every Wednesday from 7 o'clock for the most fun you can have with your clothes on. Are we ready?
Yes, Mommy!
Then let's do this. Trivia, Sandbar, 7 o'clock, Wednesday. See you there.
Buy and sell almost anything. Shop and buy new and gently pre-owned items. Declutter your home and earn some extra cash by selling unwanted items. ektrade.com, where K-Man goes online to buy and sell.
The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo FM.
Hello, K-Man. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon, and welcome to Straight Talk on Bobo 89.1 FM.
745-2626 is the number. You can be a part of the conversation by dialing in and sharing your thoughts, comments, and or questions. We'd love to hear from you. Again, that number is 745-2626. Also on social media, you can do a search if you haven't already added it to your favorites. It's Straight Talk Talk Show, and that is found on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Likewise, we are streaming a simulcast live on the radio and live on YouTube, as well as on Instagram, albeit on Instagram you are going to pick up our feed via a third party, our partner in social media, the Rec Room 345. That's Rec, R-E-C, Room 345 if you would rather pick us up on Instagram. That is, of course, on your handheld. And last but not least, if calling and using your credit isn't your thing, we do offer a WhatsApp number. Whilst we can't take WhatsApp calls yet, for whatever reason, we can certainly receive your WhatsApp voice note. So if you want to share a thought, comment, and or question, simply dial 928-2562, and we will receive your messages via WhatsApp as well. Happy Valentine's Day, buddy.
Hey, I can see that both of us, read the memo.
We both got the memo. I think this is the second or third day this week that we've read that non-existent memo to make sure we wear at least matching shirts or within the realm of that color category, indeed. But absolutely, happy Valentine's Day, specifically to all the ladies in our audience, but certainly to the men as well. I mean, it is, a thing for couples. But I just want to say that, Valentine's Day is Valentine's Day, and certainly if you're in love and you've got a, wife or a husband, then by all means, embrace that and do the whole flowers and chocolates and dinner thing. But, we tend to forget that happiness doesn't come as a result of getting something we don't have, but rather recognizing and appreciating what we do have.
Yeah, I hear you.
So I would encourage our listening audience, whether it's Valentine's Day or just Friday, to spread the love to those around you. Remember that not only today, but each day you can make a difference in someone's life. You don't need an excuse or a special day to show someone that you care. So, my dear friend, my partner, my colleague, I care about you.
Is this where we hug?
I don't have the proverbial, sharing the love moment without the physical contact, if that works for you. But, I'm a big hugger, so I don't mind.
Hey.
I don't mind.
It'll just, it's just that if we hug now, Austin, it would cause a break in airtime, and you and I have been told from day one, it can hear JB, no dead air.
No dead air. No, absolutely right. No pregnant pauses.
Keep it going on.
Keep it going, even if you gotta like wing it, but keep it going.
Yeah. Say something.
Say something. That's right. But yeah, happy Valentine's Day to all in.
So how many men do you think are out there crying today because they didn't get flowers or chocolates? I'm just curious.
I don't know about men crying. I can certainly imagine there'd be one or two women out there a little disappointed that they either didn't get any of those things. Or
why I didn't get any flowers today, Ellio? What's the problem with you?
The problem. I don't know. I'm assuming that Valentine's Day, doesn't affect men the same way it affects women.
Rumor has it.
Flowers. Rumor has it. Rumor has it. But I could be wrong. No flowers for me either. But that's okay.
Hey,
it's all good.
I know what you said. No flowers for you.
No
but
flowers.
You're not gonna turn down a little piece of chocolate.
No, no, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I'm not going to turn that down at all.
Yeah, a little dark chocolate somewhere, yeah. Milk chocolate, Cadbury milk chocolate. Something.
Yes, indeed.
I think get a chocolate that has a little bit of that sweet inside. I like those.
Well, I like that chocolate with the cherry inside.
Is it a cherry?
Well,
I wasn't going that far, Austin.
Well,
I don't know where you're going. I'm talking about.
I'm talking about chocolate, dude. I just keep your mind out of the gutter. I'm just talking about chocolate.
Me too. So I don't know. So what do you call it?
He says with a grin.
Yeah. What do you call it when you have that little, little syrupy thing inside there? A little jelly, sweet strawberry, something in your chocolate. I thought you knew these things.
I don't know these things.
Google it.
Google it. I'll Google it for you later on.
Yeah, okay. But either way, I like those.
You do. All right. Well, again, I think keeping with our so far, and I'd say tradition, has only been 5 days. Today is our 5th episode. First of all and foremost, I want to thank the listening audience. For those of you who have tuned in and those who continue to tune in each and every day. We're tracking the numbers, and certainly it shows that we're growing every day. We encourage those who are tuned in to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We're not streaming live from our own platform on those platforms because, again, both Meta, Facebook, and Instagram require us to have at least 100 followers before we can post a live streaming feed from those channels. But that is growing. Just yesterday, I think we added 30 more followers, I believe, on Instagram. So I think that's positive.
Definitely.
And want to encourage the listening audience to make sure you add us to your favorites and follow. Because as the program itself grows, obviously we're going to start to deliver more and more content, both live on the radio as well as online, social media.
It's kind of a help us help you moment.
Quite right. That's a very good way to put it. Help us to help you get you the information that you want to hear the most from. So keeping with the good news, and it is Friday and it's Valentine's Day.
Definitely started off pretty cheerful.
I think it started off
and
pretty
sweet
cheerful.
with chocolate, flowers.
That's right.
No one can say, "Come on, guys."
Yeah, no one can say you guys are bitter.
So great from the start.
From the start, come on, man. Taking a little sunshine, being thankful you're alive. Thank God for breath.
Yeah, I can hear Bernard now.
Yeah, I can hear him as well.
Ellio.
Yeah.
The sun is shining, Ellio.
But few people, gravitate towards the good news. But you throw in a little bit of bad news, no.
Everybody jumps
Now you got people tuned in saying, yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Bobo.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing.
But remember, sorry to cut you, but you remember I used to reverse it on him, Because sometimes he'd call, especially if I was beating up his favorite group.
True.
He had a favorite group. I
did.
Not calling any names, but he had a favorite group. Ellio, the sun is shining, Ellio. and then you'd hear him probably the next day. Let me tell you something. If you see I'm going to fix this problem, because this is my country, this is not going to run down my country. I mash it up before they mash it up. I burn it down.
Oh, you got to love
I would quickly retort.
Got to love our people, eh?
Bernard.
God rest your soul.
The sun is shining.
God rest your soul.
Man. Awesome,
what a fantastic human being.
Awesome, man.
And he is sadly missed.
Definitely.
But certainly he was, once upon a time, one of our regular contributors, let's call it that.
Yeah.
And we certainly appreciated it then. And it is nice to fondly remember him. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely.
Again, plucking from the headlines some bits of good news, unless you're a pensioner, or a seafarer, or a veteran, you might not This will not apply to you, but certainly to those persons in those brackets, which I think are very important to this country. They saw an increase in their monthly payments from up to $250. They were receiving $1,250 per month for their past services and contributions to the Cayman Islands. That was up to $1,500 a month. And the minister responsible, the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, Deputy Premier, but also minister responsible, who took over the responsibility for the Social Development Ministry last October, said that the increase would be made retroactive. So the first payment of that $1,500 would be made this month, whenever the payday is issued, but it will be made retroactive to January. So that means your February payment should have a double payment, or $3,000 for most of you. Again, ex gratia pensioners, seafarers, and veterans. Again, I think this is a good news for most of our retired persons and those persons who have made significant contributions to the Cayman Islands.
Well, they definitely did that. We all know whether some were actually, I think it was used to be pretty much a forced situation in terms of them sending money home.
Yes.
But they were always sending home, and at the end of the day, we owe a debt of gratitude to them.
Yes, we do.
And congratulations to them on that little increase.
No, absolutely.
It will go a long way.
It certainly does. And kudos to the government for recognizing the cost of living, the increase in inflation. I mean, in actual physical numbers terms, we saw inflation rise in June 2024 compared to March 2024. It went up from 1.5% to where it stands right now, 1.7%. It may seem, like a small increase, but certainly when felt on the ground, and again, you can talk to any older person, and they'll tell you that eggs gone up, milk gone up, food gone up, the basics and whatnot. So your dollar doesn't stretch as far as it once did. So it is important to note that there is a segment of our society who, I think feels it most. And it's good to see that they're getting this increase. So that's a bit of good news.
I think a lot of those persons now find themselves in a position where they're really, many of them can't really, as we say, fend for themselves. And I think it is good that we haven't, allowed them to lose their dignity, their pride.
No.
And we're helping them out as they helped us.
Absolutely.
I think it's good.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And just speaking, just as an aside, as I think about, obviously the statement I made that eggs are going up, I also got to say kudos and thanks to some of our supermarket owners in the companies. We don't have to name their names, but there are three of them. But one comes to mind, obviously making a public statement suggesting that they recognize that with the H1N1 bird flu that's certainly impacting the United States, that eggs, for example, are going up in price, and there was a concern for a while there that not only was the price increasing, but also maybe that might impact the supply chain. But the supermarket owners coming out and saying, reassuring the public that their supply chains are strong and secure, and these services will, and these products, of course, these staple products will continue to be brought into the Cayman Islands. So kudos to our supermarkets for, thinking nationally, not just, worried about the bottom line. They've got things to pay for as well, staff, building, product, inventory. But it's nice to know that, they're also there in the corner having your back.
Yeah, I think they're definitely alive to the fact that they recognize it doesn't take really much to get a big run on the supermarkets,
No.
Like you can't find eggs now.
Right.
So they go to their way to offer up that bit of transparency and say, hey, don't worry about it.
That's right.
We'll be having eggs.
No, that's right. But it also, again, puts, I think, a little bee in the bonnet for the larger issue of food security, and that we could do a lot more, internally to protect, what we consume, whether it be backyard farms, something we've talked about and certainly have endorsed. I know you're a farmer, so you can certainly speak to this, perhaps maybe even at the commercial level. But there are opportunities for food security that we just really haven't fully embraced, and we can do better. And whether it's COVID or whether it's flus or
Did we ever figure
upcoming tariffs.
Did we ever figure out what that tissue thing was? during COVID, where everybody had to buy toilet tissue?
I do not know. No, I don't think we ever figured. I don't think we ever figured that out. It's one of those unknowns as to why toilet tissue was the number one must-have item on your list. I would think things like bleach and all the things they limited you to buy like a maximum of 2 per person or 2 or whatever, but that would make more sense.
All right, prize to the person who's figured out why we needed toilet tissue.
There were a lot of folks worried about what was going out versus what was coming in and whatever. But hey,
they said flu. I'm thinking,
Yes, that's what they're thinking. That's what they're thinking. Cleanse. Another bit of positive news, and this is again a feather in the bonnet for our national hazard management teams. We had a bit of excitement starting on Monday. Of course, last Sunday, the Cayman Islands had a very brief earthquake that struck about 200 kilometers southwest of Grand Cayman in very deep waters. I think it was registered at 7.6 on the Richter scale. So
just about 8.
Yeah, not a small earthquake. It was followed by another smaller tremor of 4.3 later on, which was closer to the Cayman Islands, some 63 kilometers. Again, I think hazard management should be commended for doing a fine job of getting the word out. Their ad hoc is what the alert system that I have, and I signed up for their app.
You're really handing out flowers today, Austin.
Listen, man, I want to...
Is it Valentine's Day or something?
It must be Valentine's Day, or you've gone and plugged the memory of our late friend Brennard in our mind, and now I think, you know what, the sun is shining, he's right. So let's let the sun shine on in before we get to 5 o'clock. And
but you were saying...
I was saying...
They did an excellent job.
They did an excellent job on getting the word out. I know, just from a personal sense, whilst I did receive the emergency notifications, I had my own friends saying, did you hear? So they were forwarding and sharing messages, and people were talking about it.
I think you sent me something, too.
I think I sent you something as well, and I think you had a caller on another show earlier on this afternoon also stating that, they were by the coastline when they got the warning. They're like, are you that fast? We got to go. Take me to West. I don't know, but it was all very good. If I can just throw in, this is for my colleague because apparently I'm too much of a ray of sunshine right now. But if I can just offer up just a brief bit of constructive criticism for our national emergency management, hazard management team. Again, I'm grateful for the warning system, the emergency notice system. I think you all did a fabulous job, and certainly the country cannot say that we were not aware of it. There was a warning accompanying that earthquake of a tsunami warning. What I found curiously interesting was, and again, from the ad hoc system, instead the earthquake occurred at 6:23 p.m., but the first email notifying us of the alert didn't arrive until 6:38 p.m., some 15 minutes later. And I just say that to say that had it been any tsunami of consequence, the event would have arrived before the warning did. So I would have known that there was a tsunami here, because if I was on the coastline, I would have gotten slightly wet before my phone rang and said, hey, by the way, there's a warning on the
I think they were saying, and I could be wrong, but I think they were saying that based on some chart that I saw, that it would have taken about 2 hours for this wave to reach us.
Oh, really?
So.
Okay, I could stand corrected.
So, no, I was going to say, so not quite 15 minutes, I think, but I get your point.
But again, it may have taken 2 hours to get to us if it was what they said, between 0 and 1 meter. But if it was a little taller, say 30 meters, obviously it would move a lot faster. I
think I was getting educated the same night, but I think again it would vary depending on the depth of the ocean. Apparently, I'm thinking higher waves, quicker, lower water.
Yes, true.
But
true.
But yeah, either way, yeah, like you said, it did a good job, and there's a delta. Always a way to improve it.
Yes.
Maybe you have to have that young, beautiful lady to come in here and chat with us and tell us a little bit more about how they think it went and how things would improve the next time.
Yes. No, quite right.
So it was really good. And of course, if it was a tsunami, I should share this story. It's not anything you want to surf. I just want to throw that out. It's not a surfing wave. But
you got to admire Cayman surfers, though, boy. When there's a storm out there, they don't care about the warnings. They don't worry about how strong the wind is blowing. They're thinking, surf's up.
Hey, listen. I remember growing up, it was car is it tubes? Yeah, tubes.
Yeah.
Everybody had that tube, went to the gas station and blowed it up, and we were out there in tubes.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, before it was surfing, I was riding waves on that little styrofoam piece.
All kinds of stuff.
Oh, my goodness. Just riding the waves at the surf line
Anything
was a
that
rush.
could float, even your friend. You could ride a friend if you could float, and then sometimes you saw yourself going towards the Iron Shore, and you kind of knew that was too late. It was all over.
It was all over. See, yeah, I stayed away from things like that. I'm so glad you mentioned it, because it was one of those events that my younger brother and I would do together, and we would go to the old Holiday Inn, Galleon Beach. You remember that? Remember those days?
Yep.
That was proper beach, boy.
Summertime for me was 2 buckets of mangoes, and you had to have your tube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'll tell you a scary story. Right? I fell asleep in my tube.
Mm. You did?
Yeah, like laying in a tube.
You are comfortable floating there in the water.
Hey, and when I looked up, I'm thinking I got scared because I think I'm like 2 miles away from the shore, and I'm like, oh my God, you're in that water that has that dark blue.
Yes.
So it was some exciting times. But I was actually, I think, near one of the supermarkets. Notice I didn't call a name. I'm learning.
You're learning. That's right. Now you could advertise with us, and we'll call your name all day long.
That's it. That's my point.
I know. That's right.
And then I said that the tsunami would be hitting us in 2 hours, and I said, what am I going to do? I'm thinking drive to East End. Go to my piece of land in East End. That's the highest ground I know. I'll sleep in my car.
Yes.
I haven't built anything out there yet. Also.
No,
bear with me.
That's right. And I won't call it good news, but it's good that they're honoring the gentleman's life. There was an article in today's Cayman Compass stating family and friends of Jeremy Sibley, the man who helped design the former A-frame terminal at Owen Roberts International Airport, and is remembered as a talented architect and artist.
The one who did what?
He designed the original A-frame terminal.
Remember that? Apex,
Yeah, at the old terminal.
Sorry, Joseph. Is that what you said?
No, Jeremy Sibley.
Oh, really? I thought. What did I always associate that with Mr.
Eric Joseph. Well, maybe he was the construction company that actually built it.
Okay.
But there was obviously somebody who drew the designs for it first, and apparently he was the architect that laid the architectural drawings, I guess. But the Compass did a nice little write-up on him in today's Cayman Compass paper. You can pick it up online, or of course you can, get one of the papers. They're now free because they wised up quickly. But unfortunately, Mr. Sibley apparently passed away on New Year's Eve at the age of 95. But I think it's important to give credit to where credit is due.
Yeah.
And these persons have made a contribution to the Cayman Islands. He was born in Kingston, Jamaica. His family lineage reaches back to the abolitionist Baptist minister William Knibb, who came to Jamaica from England in 1824. So let's just say his roots run deep. And I was thinking of that also as well, our relationship with Jamaica. I mean, we were, as they say, the lowest form of democracy, a colony of a colony at one time. That is, Jamaica administered.
Talk about being an outcast.
Yeah, talk about being an outcast. Talk about being a redheaded stepchild at the lowest levels.
The black sheep.
Yeah, we were a colony of a colony. But I just say that to say that of all the nationalities, and there are many that live in the Cayman Islands, and some you love, some you don't so love, some you talk about positive, some you
just
don't.
love them sometimes.
You love them sometimes. I'm sure they love us sometimes. That's the truth. But we do have a historical lineage connection with Jamaica and Jamaicans, and obviously Mr. Sibley was one such person that moved here, came here, lived here, settled here, raised a family here, but also made lasting contributions that up until recently still stood.
I can tell you now, Austin, you started off talking about them seafarers.
I did.
And now you're talking about our connections, and our seafarers sailed up and down the coast. So we got connections with a lot of places.
Oh, goodness gracious, that's right.
Honduras, everywhere up around Nicaragua.
That's right.
Name it.
That's a good point. That just goes to say that, we are a mixing pot, and we didn't just become a mixing pot or a melting pot. We've been that way for a long time. Our good old seafarers brought us that wonderful music we call country music. But back when country music made sense, I don't know how much of sense it makes today, but that good old cry stuff that we used to like.
That's it. Oh, I don't always tell me, say, boy, either way you get them more cry.
Alan Jones and
George Jones. And
George
stuff,
Jones, that's what it is. Yeah.
Should I love you
till I die?
Damn. You remember that one we were singing up in
Kevin Brack?
No, when we were in the Rooster. One that how that one went? Jeez, I can't remember off the top of my head. But basically, anyway, he had too much to drink. Oh, one of those songs.
Oh, where am I going to live when I get home?
Oh, he softly landed on the ground. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
Yes,
anyway.
and I lightly touched down.
You know you're drunk.
I lay my head on the wheel.
You know you're drunk when you think that you lightly touched down.
You think you lightly touched down. That's right. That's a tequila moment.
The bars are all closed.
See, there you go.
It's 4 a.m.
You got that voice, boy.
Anyway.
See? Fantastic. I love it. Yeah. Well, 745-2626. Happy Friday. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And again, wanting to start off, as we have so far for the past week, with something positive before we get down to some of the more controversial nitty-gritty. When we come back, yesterday we were talking about the rather shocking, in some cases, changes to the National Conservation Council lineup, members of the board. Mm-hmm. Well, today, some of those members of the board who were canned without notice are taking issue and even threatening.
No, hold on, Austin. You know you love your job. You know you love your job and hey, you can't fire me. You hire me back, hear you?
How have you know?
I am bringing a judicial review. This is not fair. I refuse to be fired. I want to get back to work.
That's right.
You know you love your job. Kudos to them.
You know you love your job. You got too much time on your hands. You need something to keep you busy.
I am confident there's no one behind them at all on this whole thing. This is completely just groupthink. And we want our jobs back.
We want our jobs back.
This is not organized.
Well, when we come back, we are going to tackle that topic.
They're loving me right now.
Again, we discussed it yesterday. The phone lines are open, 745-2626, or you can share your comments with us on WhatsApp. You can also email us, host@straighttalk.ky. Again, if you don't want to call up. But we'd love to hear your voice and be a part of the conversation so that, we aren't the only voice you hear on your drive home. But stay with us. We're going to pause, take a short commercial break, but there will be more Straight Talk with Austin and
Ellio Solomon.
Still to come right here on your K-Man voice, Bobo 89.1 FM.
The BBC World Service, the world's radio station.
The BBC World Service makes programs with a uniquely global perspective.
Enlighten us. Where do we start?
The latest world news and current affairs.
The very best in global arts and culture.
What has been happening on the financial markets today.
Social issues, political stories.
Everything was there in a way that I never heard before.
The BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
The BBC's From Our Own Correspondent.
In today's Russia, no one is allowed anywhere near the political stage if they pose a serious challenge to Vladimir Putin.
Stories and reflections from our reporters around the world.
There is a major sense of insecurity here.
More people are coming in from Sudan every day.
From Our Own Correspondent from the BBC.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
How can we understand the world better?
The BBC World Service is a window onto the wider world.
The vantage point from which to survey a new horizon.
News, reports, and analysis from around the world.
Stories we think matter.
Different people from different societies.
We get to the heart of global issues.
News, stories, and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM. This is Bobo FM, powered by Doctors Hospital. 24/7 urgent care, located in Georgetown at the top of Walker's Road. Introducing the Doctors Hospital Specialty Clinic, conveniently located in the Strand. To book your appointment at Doctors Hospital, call 325-9000. Across Cayman on 89.1 FM, online and on your smart speaker. The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery.
President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine has met the US Vice President J.D. Vance at the Munich Security Conference. Mr. Zelensky said they'd had a good conversation and that it would not be their last. He said they needed to prepare a plan on how to stop President Putin and finish the war with Russia. Speaking to the BBC, a Ukrainian member of parliament, Alexander Mereshko, said dialogue with the Trump administration was vital.
It's crucially important because we are starting to have systematic discussions, conversations with our American colleagues, with the new administration. And it helps to bring about mutual understanding. And we can see that the policy, the attitude of the new administration is changing under the influence of these contacts with representatives of Ukraine.
Before meeting Mr. Zelensky, Mr. Vance used an address at the conference to launch a withering attack on European countries. He criticised what he called a retreat of fundamental values across Europe and accused leaders of ignoring the will of the people. Mr. Vance claimed voters were being censored and repressed for expressing populist views and religious beliefs.
The organisers of this very conference have banned lawmakers representing populist parties on both the left and the right from participating in these conversations. We don't have to agree with everything or anything that people say, but when people represent, when political leaders represent an important constituency, it is incumbent upon us to at least participate in dialogue with them.
The leader of the M23 rebel forces sweeping through eastern Congo says his fighters have entered the key city of Bukavu. Corneille Nangaa said operations in the city, the capital of South Kivu province and home to about 1 million people, would continue into Saturday. Reports say there was little resistance to the Rwandan-backed rebels' advance. Earlier on Friday, M23 forces seized the nearby airport. The head of the Africa Centres for Disease Control says African leaders have agreed to increase their health budgets and taxes to create alternative funding for medical services. Many African countries rely on USAID and other donors to provide billions of dollars for programs tackling malaria and HIV. Here's Dr. Jean Kasaya.
A combination of a number of actions, from increasing the health budget. Second, for putting in place some taxes to create innovative funding, and also for providing some innovation, the innovative approach for Africa CDC and other health organs of the African Union to get funds.
BBC News. The UN peacekeeping mission in Lebanon says a convoy of its staff heading to Beirut airport has been attacked. UNIFIL said one vehicle was set on fire and the force's outgoing deputy commander was injured. It's demanding a full and immediate investigation. Hezbollah protesters have gathered outside the airport since Thursday after Lebanon refused to allow Iranian planes to land. The latest government figures from South Korea indicates that the suicide epidemic among young people continues to be widespread, despite efforts by officials to address it. Suicide is the leading cause of death among Koreans between 10 and 39. Here's Jae-sung Lee.
The data showed nearly half of South Koreans who had received emergency medical treatment from self-harm, including attempted suicide in 2023, were in their teens or 20s. 1 in 200 Koreans in their 20s were found to have engaged in self-harming behavior. These figures come despite the authorities having tried to tackle the problem 2 decades ago by launching the first national suicide initiative back in 2004. More measures to curb rising suicide have followed since, but to limited success.
Police in Ecuador say gunmen have shot dead an Air Force colonel in the southern port city of Guayaquil. Colonel Porfirio Cedeño led a special unit targeting criminal gangs and drug traffickers. He was travelling to a military ceremony. Hamas says it expects negotiations for the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal to begin early next week. Israel is yet to comment. Talks on Phase 2 had been due to begin earlier this month. Discussions will focus on freeing all remaining hostages and a permanent end to the war. Hamas has released the names of the 3 hostages that it's due to release on Saturday. BBC News.
The views and opinions opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo FM.
And welcome back, K-Man, to more Straight Talk. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon. Welcome back to 89.1 Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio.
745-2626 are the phone line's number. If you've got a comment, a question, or just a general remark, by all means, pick up the phone and give us a call, 745-2626. We are going to now transition into our primary topic of the day, but I think it's also a useful time to let you know that we now will come to you with 53 minutes, commercial-free, just talk. We have one caller on the line already. Let's see what's on their mind. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Hey there, Mr. Ellio.
Hello.
And Mr. Austin.
Good evening to you, sir.
Man, you all doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for tuning in.
And I wish you all the best with it. And I definitely believe in supporting this radio station.
Thank you, sir. We do appreciate that.
It. Supporting your talk show and all that, you know.
Thank you, sir. Anything on your mind other than that?
I like hearing Austin and Ellio sing. It's good when you do that. If you can continue, that would be good.
You like the singing? All right, well, we're gonna do a little bit more singing for you. Yeah?
You don't have to ask us twice.
All right.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
I've been dying to sing Good Year for the Roses all day.
Have you?
But anyway, in the spirit of transparency, I want the public to know.
Oh, God, here it comes. You're frightening me now. I don't know what's happening next.
Austin, give me a break, man.
Go ahead, man. Sorry.
You let me lose my train here.
Sorry.
Anyway, in the spirit of transparency, I got to let people know that there's some troublemakers around here, you see.
No.
We've got some. Listen. This is a gentle tease, Austin.
Okay.
Work with me here.
All right.
Anyway, someone sends us in. I'm teasing a good person that sent us a picture. I'm going to tell you what that picture is in a little while. But Austin and I were laughing off stage because to me it's like this one of those bad soprano moves, yes. Right? It's like every time I try to come out, they keep dragging me in,
pulling me back in.
So I've been being beat up all week, 4 days exactly. This is a 5-day week.
Yes.
4 days I've been being beat up, Ellio. And you get off of that cruise topic.
You get off that cruise topic. We talked about it quite.
And I want people to know.
Comprehensively last couple of days.
In my defense, I have tried to get off of that topic. Austin, come on now. Yes. In the spirit of transparency.
No, you're right.
Hold on.
You're right.
Let me finish this. In the spirit of transparency, can you tell the public that I specifically told you I do not want to talk about cruise tourism from day one? Say it, Austin.
No, you did. You did.
Okay, good.
You did.
And then here is some friendly listener.
It was encouraging to address the little elephant in the room from day one, just to show the world that we're not afraid of any topic.
And here is some friendly user, some friendly listener who loves us.
Apparently.
Who sends us a picture of a cruise ship that looks like it's got affluent floating around, and he's trying to drag us into this topic. But Austin,
yes,
I am not going to go there today.
Good.
I'm going to do my best to not let this train run off the tracks. Okay.
Good. Yeah.
So I want to say to the person, I'm not going to question your motives. I believe that they're noble. I believe they're pure. But I'm going to do my best.
Yes.
To not touch on that topic today.
That's right. Well, since you brought it up again, in full transparency to the listening audience, and also to give due credit to those persons, the listening audience, who. Again, we are encouraging your views to, the program and on the topics you want to hear about. I'm trying to protect the audiences and to, how should we say, overkill. But as my friend pointed out, every time I try to get out, they drag me back in.
But I might be there Monday, though.
We might be there Monday.
Yeah.
Anyway, someone sent us basically an image pulled off of online, obviously a cruise ship, destroying the pristine waters while docking in Key West, and it shows the ship docking.
Nothing to do with Cayman, by the way.
Absolutely nothing to do with Cayman.
That's all I'm saying.
From an initial, just a cursory review of the picture, obviously we're looking at a very shallow, sandy harbor, which has no relevance to the Cayman Islands whatsoever. And frankly, this may be, if this is the sort of imaging that's being used as part of, the no side,
the vote no group.
Yeah, I think it's disingenuous. I used
your term today, by the way.
You did?
Remember your term? They like hide behind the bushes and throw stones.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's
use that
group.
today. Fair enough. So that's what was sent to us, and we did, on purpose, choose not to start off with it, even though it was sent to us at 4:37
just to
p.m.
Make sure.
Literally just as we opened. So we're trying to, on the one hand, honor some of the wider audiences by, picking other topics. We have ventilated the cruise tourism topic, I think, rather significantly this week alone, and we won't be going in that direction today unless you, the listening audience, pull us into that direction. But, as I said it before, and that's why we started with it, there is no topic, no subject matter that we will run away from. We will have it. If you want to, quote unquote, blow the wind in that direction, then that is the direction we shall sail in, and we shall do so to the best of our abilities. But we also appreciate variety as a spice of life. So today we can try a little variety.
Well, I think you wanted to touch something on NCC.
Yes, well, yesterday we talked about the changes in the makeup of the National Conservation Council. In particular, I think it was 6 persons receiving their marching orders, saying thank you, but no thank you, we don't need you anymore, long before their tenure had expired, and they replaced them with certain individuals who we went through yesterday. We can again go through today. But in today's media, and again, coming from your favorite CNS, there's a headline that says, NCC members seek judicial review over unlawful removal. And I'm just going to share a few tidbits from that article, and we can discuss it at length if we wish. It reads, and I quote, the recently fired chair of the National Conservation Council, Stuart Mailer, his colleague, Patricia Bradley, and the very first National Conservation Council chairperson, Christine Rose Smythe, has sent a letter to Cabinet asking it to revoke what they argue was the unlawful decision to fire 6 NCC members. The letter is a precursor to seeking a judicial review. The 3 local environmental experts said that firing the members on Wednesday was the latest in a series of efforts by the current Cabinet to weaken the NCC's ability to perform its statutory function of promoting conservation in the Cayman Islands. Now, in a letter, their lawyers, Nelson Legal, set out the checkered history of the current Cabinet's attitude toward the NCC, in the words of CNS. You can log on to it. I was going to read the letter to you until I discovered it was 9 pages long, and that would take up far more time than we're willing to give to this particular topic. But there were some salient points that I think, are worthy of consideration. They are, the letter pointed out that the 6 members were fired without notice, partway through their tenure, with no opportunity to make representations. The Cabinet did not provide any reason for its decision, nor did the Cabinet explain whether or on what basis it considered the replacement members to have any relevant scientific or technical expertise. The lawyers noted that the government had done nothing to establish the credentials of the new appointees, and that it should have considered their interest to establish that no conflict exists, which is quite significant in the case of one of the appointees who has publicly declared his opposition to the concept of conservation. Now, the article goes out to name that individual, which, again, for transparency, none other than the former MP and former leader of the opposition, Arden McLean, who did state on the floor of Parliament that he was no tree hugger. And again, we have historical context in which to draw from for those of you who've been on this island for longer than a minute. There was that famous ironwood forest conversation that I think the then member at the time was Minister for Roads under the PPM administration. He was proposing to expand the roads through it. And of course, the conservationists put up a fight, and that did not happen. But I do find rather curious, though, that...
What could that be?
What could be is that same ironwood forest that the conservationists jumped up and, did not want a part of the road expansion how long ago was that? That had to be at least 12 years ago, maybe 15.
Arden was the minister then. That was
a while.
I think that's why you and I were on the radio back in the day. That would have been before 2009.
Yeah, it would have been pre-2009, exactly. Yeah. So, again, we have a history of arguing over many of the same conversations that we're arguing about today, this whole opposition.
You see, Austin, the ironwood was different prior to 2000.
It was a different...
totally different ironwood after 2000.
It must have been. It must have been. But interestingly enough, the road was built nonetheless under this administration, in particular the Pact. And if you're wondering, where is the ironwood forest per se? Well, when you come off the Linford Pearson Highway, and I think you're making the left onto what is Fairbanks.
Just going straight. You're just going straight there. Now the road goes into Windsor Park.
It runs into Windsor Park. So instead of turning left, you go around the curb a little bit, and then you hang the left. That was the ironwood forest that a lot of conservationists were up in an uproar in protecting. And I just stated, as a matter of fact, the road was built during the time where the former premier, and who was also the former Minister of Environment, who probably at the time of the ironwood forest would have raised a little bit of a ruckus.
Who brought the National Conservation?
Who brought the National Conservation Council, obviously referring to former Premier, now MP, Wayne Panton. It's just ironic, is all we're saying, that these things have happened in the past. A lot of people like to think that, you got a short political memory, but we don't.
I can see that you'll need at least 3 things here in the studio. I'm thinking a bell, a violin, and a drum.
Anyway, I hope you're making a list.
Yeah,
I hope you're making a list, and we'll add it to our list of sound effects.
I think that one was a violin, by the way.
Yeah, it could have been. It should have been. The world's smallest violin playing in the background.
Something like that. So, but you said that they quoted one of these individuals as having made a statement.
Yes.
That he's against conservation.
Yeah,
but did they provide that quote?
They did. It's in the article on your site.
Where did he say that?
He said it apparently in Parliament.
When was that? Because he hasn't been in Parliament for a little while.
Well, I think I almost want to say that I remember it being said under the previous administration when he was leader of the opposition, but it could very well have been before that. Really? But again, if you slide down a little bit,
somewhere in the 9 pages.
No, not. It's in the main body of the article itself. I didn't copy it, but you can definitely see it.
So they're giving you the quote that he made from
They're
Parliament.
giving you the quote that was made. They're identifying the person, which again was
provided me with a link to the Hansard, I guess.
Well, no, I don't know. No, they didn't go that far. They didn't
Just
go
checking.
that far. They just gave you a quote saying this came from the Hansards. Take our word for it. Again, referring to.
So that qualifies now as a conflict of interest.
Well, a conflict of interest in the sense that you've got somebody who is a previously stated, if you want to call it environmentalist denier, sitting on a body that is charged with protecting the environment. One has to appreciate the irony of that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. If that is the case, maybe they threw him in just to get an opposing. Just to get an opposing view. Who knows?
Who knows?
I have no idea.
Do you see it though? Do you see the quote?
Well, honestly, reading this paper is not anything that I take pleasure in.
I know.
I'm
forcing you to do something you don't like.
Yeah, I'm just warning the public. Bear in mind that this particular news thing has a slight slant.
Yes. But then again, they all do.
Yeah, but it's got a slant. But I want you to know which area, which way this is slanting.
Yeah, this one's slanting off the page.
And hold on a second. I don't even mean that in a bad way.
Right.
But it is important to know that this paper will give you an environmentalist slant.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah,
it has a grade
where there's support.
Yeah, it has a grade that runs slightly to the left. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
That's all.
So all I'm going to say on this again is that.
But no, we started on a point. Find the direct quote and read it. It's not that far down the article.
I would let you know.
Okay.
That I'm supposed to actually have glasses.
You know.
I'm supposed to go on the 19th to get my glasses.
They're not that bad.
I can see,
You can't
it's
see
just
that you can't see the future with those. It's not that thick.
It's fuzzy.
Well, try those on.
Go ahead, talking.
Go try those on. So yes, I can't read without it either. So my goodness, we're stuck. But yeah, I think again, The concern is, and I believe it's a legitimate concern. You see it? Read it.
No. Now that I found it.
I can see it.
Yes, this
You
is
sure you don't
1,
need
2,
glasses to
3,
read it?
4, 5, 6. Looks like paragraph 6. Clearly, there were issues to consider. For example, the official Hansard report records that on 12 December 2013.
Oh, before the last administration.
Well, at least they're making it sound like they did their homework, which is impressive. Arden McLean said, quote, "Let me begin by laying my cards on the table, like I have done many times publicly before. And that is that I am not a conservationist. I am no tree hugger." The lawyer states in the letter, I'm not quite sure that qualifies as a conflict in my mind, but,
fair enough.
Maybe I'm just not that sensitive.
No, maybe not.
Because, first of all, I would want the full context to understand why precisely he was saying that.
Right. Right.
I mean, for example, I could sit there and actually be saying that as a preface to me actually saying something that makes me sound like an environmentalist.
Sure.
As in, Austin, I want to make it clear, I'm not a big environmentalist. I'm no real tree hugger. But I don't think anyone should touch that area because that, to me, is pristine.
Yes. True.
So
True. It's all about context.
Correct. I cry more information. But either way, look forward to it. We can look that Hansard up and see exactly what it is he said and see if it's out of context. But hey, for now, we'll leave it up to the good little lawyer to provide us with that quote.
Yes.
I just want to say that I know normally when you're appointed to the board, Cabinet gives you a letter that says, you serve at the leisure of Cabinet.
Yes.
And like I said before, and I said it yesterday, I'll say it again, maybe again on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, is that you elect a government for 4 years to actually do things on your behalf. And in order to get that done, one of the things that they do is to seek to have majority on the board. In other words, really what you're saying is to have control via that board.
Yes.
That's the real reason why you can nice it up however you want. That's the real reason why they're doing it. I must be able to control that to some extent. You don't want what they call that direct political interference that you're calling up the person and saying, hey, do X, Y, and Z. But there is an idea within the civil service that basically the politicians will set the direction. What the civil servant can do is provide consultation in how best to get there.
Right.
But that final decision is always made by Cabinet.
Yes, indeed.
So anyway, it definitely seems they want their job back.
Well, let's just continue reading the article.
Go ahead.
So the article continues, with Parliament set to be prorogued on 1st of March ahead of the general election, the 3 former NCC members said that the timing of the decision indicates that it has replaced the 6 members as a penalty for promoting conservation. Obviously, the 6 members and the National Conservation Council were quite verbal, at least in terms of what the written word when the government was considering amendments to the National Conservation Act, and words such as gutting of the act and so on and so forth were being tossed about, changing or limiting the existing power of the National Conservation Council board to make decisions without cabinet and or political influence. The lawyers went on to list a catalog of reasons why the sudden sacking of the 6 members was unlawful, including the important point that cabinet is not permitted to use its powers of appointment as a system of patronage or to further its political aims or to frustrate the purpose of the Conservation Act. They go on to quote the Public Authorities Law, which states that the cabinet has a constitutional duty to give written reasons for removing a person from the National Conservation Council, but no such reasons were provided, according to the former members and their legal representatives. And I can say that that is a factual statement. It comes from Section 41(1) of the Public Authorities Law.
Did you go digging?
I did go digging because I knew you. I knew you would ask.
I'm going to do me, Austin, and you do you.
I will.
I'm just checking.
I will. The Public Authorities Law also states that Cabinet should not remove more than 2/3 of any board at any one time. On Wednesday, it fired 6 out of the 7 appointed members, leaving only 1, which is the representative of the National Trust, along with the other ex officio or non-voting members, which make up, I think, 2 from the Department of Environment, one from the Department of Agriculture, and one from the Department of Planning. And that too also, conforms with the Public Authorities Law, this time under Section 11.2. And if necessary, I can quote them because I did do my homework. Now, the three plaintiffs, going back to your earlier comment before the break, they really want a job back when. The three plaintiffs are seeking a judicial review and asking the government to reconsider the decision to fire them and their colleagues, largely as a result of the procedural unfairness and the lack of lawful basis for their removal, which is set out in great detail by their attorneys, alongside the lack of any lawful basis for the new appointments. And again, from there, you go on, and if you have nothing to do and want a course in legal law, you can read the lawyer's 9-page submission, which, by the way, the lawyers on behalf of their clients say the government has until Monday to respond, and barring that, then they will make application for judicial review regarding those terminations.
Yeah, well, I have a little bit of I really don't want to get into it, but again, as chairman in the Turtle Center, I can tell you that there was issues in relation to species conservation plan where submissions were made to the same body, same NCC. They had legal obligations to pass that on to the ministers, etc. Things weren't done. And we should call for a judicial review too. But either way, I definitely want to educate myself more on this topic. All I can say is, as I've said before, that I think that the government has got up and done that. And I know that they have the ability to be able to remove them. You were saying that the Public Authorities Law offers up some specific ways that it has to be done. Maybe the government has a little stamp somewhere. I have no idea. Soon come. We'll have to get the government in. Only them can explain what their motives are and whether they had the process.
Correct.
Not hearing their defense.
Yes. No.
I'm eager to see that they want to get back to work.
No, absolutely. Though, and again, I preface these comments as I did yesterday. Whilst I agreed that the terminations were a bit sudden, whilst I also agreed that the new appointments of persons who have no environmental or conservation, scientific or otherwise background would be appointed to a body that is tasked explicitly with protecting the environment, and how strongly they would protect the environment against, some of the otherwise desires or plans of a government, did certainly, a light bulb went off, and that's just from the balanced conversation. It's very difficult to, walk the balanced tightrope because, as we say, you support one side heavily, then you have to give equal and due weight to the other.
Yeah, I just see some weird stuff like that. Again, as you talk,
it happens every day in this country. Come on, let's admit it.
Yeah, what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. And I saw hell rise up against a minister with building that same road. And then it goes through. You don't hear a whistle.
You don't hear a peep. That's right. That's right.
And then
if you don't know your history, you would have no idea what we're talking about. But we
had one of the same members. One of the same members from the breakaway group there.
Yeah,
I think they had a big pile of dredging on their property in the ocean or whatever. I mean, and again, nothing.
Yeah, no peep. No lying down in front of bulldozers.
Yeah, exactly. But I almost said we can't build a cruise pier, but I apologize for that.
It almost slipped out.
So it is interesting. There's some interesting things, and I really will take some time over the next couple of days and weeks to highlight some of those things. Maybe I'll go digging and get some information and show the public that it is one thing to think that a lot of these committees, and I'm not speaking specifically to this one, in offering any substantial evidence at this point in time, substantive evidence, but don't think that everybody out there is supposedly working on your behalf and doing everything they're supposed to do. And I have some specific evidence about that, and I think I will bring it up perhaps next week.
Right. Well, I'm going to throw a little stone, not a big stone, but a little stone into the water, just to add a few ripples and just to maybe, generate some commentary from the listening audience, maybe. And again, it's just a thought. It is not an accusation. I do not know any of this for a fact. Let me put that out there first and foremost. But one does, and again, maybe I just have a suspicious mind. But when you make a move as significant as the government did in sacking 6 out of 7 appointed members and replacing them with persons who, again, have no stated or at least identifiable environmental background, then it causes me to ask myself, just as an intelligent thinking individual, well, is there some decision in the coming months leading up to nomination day and the elections that the government needs a rubber stamp or an agreement from the National Conservation Council that they felt they weren't going to get from the previous makeup of the council, and then they made the decisions they did in order to advance their project? And whether that be the extension of the east-west arterial, which we have stated our support of, again, not talking out of turn, but could this be one of the reasons behind it? I don't know. It is an assumption, so it is just a pebble being tossed from the bushes. But as we both, I think, stated unequivocally yesterday as well, we know the individuals that have been appointed. We know them very well, having worked with them both in our previous lives as talk show hosts, as well as working with them directly from the floor of Parliament. And I stated unequivocally that I have every confidence that the individuals appointed, regardless of what your thoughts may be, are Caymanians and Caymanians first, and they would not, intentionally seek to do harm to the country as a matter of action. I just don't. No one can convince me that these individuals would take that particular road. I also believe, and it's a point that you made that I thought, again, after the fact, you make a comment and you kind of digest it and think, Ellio made a very good point.
You heard that Jeopardy sound. Yeah.
Yes, that one. Don't ask to sing it. There is no singing. But I digress. But you made a very good point that whilst they may not have the requisite experience as an environmentalist or the science or whatnot, you pointed out, and it's a very good point, that they have the power to call witnesses, to call experts on any question that comes before them. And again, knowing the individuals and their former parliamentary backgrounds, there's absolutely no reason not to assume that if in such a quandary or situation, that they would not call on the experts and then decide for themselves, how much weight to give the expert scientific opinion or otherwise. So
I'm going to get the evidence, but let me just give the public an overview in case they want to walk away thinking that these groups are holier than thou. From the information that I have off the top of my head, it would be something to this effect, and I will get all of the information. Turtle Center, for example, from 2019 would have made a submission for a species conservation plan as it relates to turtles. And it would only seem appropriate that you would have a species conservation plan. In other words, there should be a specific plan somewhere on the blue iguanas.
Yes.
How are we going to deal with them? What's the plan? Everybody always talking about a plan.
Yes.
Well, there should be a plan for the turtles.
Yes.
We submitted it 2019, and in fact, again, the good progressives under Mr. Mosca Colonel went ahead and said, yep, I agree, let's go forward with that. But needless to say, 2019 all the way now until 2025, absolutely nothing has happened.
Right.
It's a short argument.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of run up and down, and like I said, there's been submissions in one formal way, an informal way, and everything. And anyone, blind Bartimaeus, as they say, can see that there's roadblocks. And you're talking now, what's that, 6 years?
Yes.
6 years going on 7. And again, this is one of the councils that has to deal with that. And I remember having discussions, again, like I said, with elected officials, etc. I feel their pain. And if you say to me that, well, Ellio, maybe they have some specific agenda, I probably think they have an agenda, yeah? Maybe they're trying, amongst other things, just a guess, maybe they're trying to get a road built that actually says we need to fix the traffic that's going back and forth from here to East End. Maybe they're trying to get a road fixed like Arden was trying to get it fixed back in 2009 or earlier and couldn't get it done, but it's done now. Maybe they're trying to do something similar. Mm-hmm. And I think the fight is that, we got to make sure we can't do it because there's Lyme lizards there or whatever it is.
Right.
And I would now be quoting what Arden has said. I'm not saying that I'm some big conservationist. I'm not saying I'm a tree hugger. But I love the environment. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, Austin, I know that you have to progress. And the only way you can do that sometimes is by making a little bit of sacrifice. And for some strange reason, I think the green iguanas, the blue iguanas, and the lime lizards, you know, building the road, I don't think is really going to end the day. But hey, we get a couple of experts on it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, there it is. Just to, again, show completeness for this conversation that we started yesterday. Very clearly, the other side of the coin or this discussion has been offered up. And so, too, we read from the headlines. And this is for you, the listening audience, to decide whether you have an opinion on one way or the other, or perhaps, like the rest of us, you're just going to go out and grab your popcorn and watch what happens next.
Yeah,
that's
also I've also mentioned this publicly as well, just again to show you, and you know, again, I appreciate that once you talk about the UK, Ellio, we're not going independent. I don't want to go independent. I keep telling them that just because I'm saying that, you know, it's raining doesn't mean I'm calling for a drought. I'm just simply identifying things. And bear in mind, there's an FOI document of which I can provide you.
Yeah.
Where you had persons, the organization I think is Whisper.
Okay.
Right, just think about this. Raiding through the governor's office, basically what they're saying is, we need to technically shut down the Turtle Center. It shouldn't be doing what it's doing. It should be just doing conservation. That's all they should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the governor's office is responding, hey, well, we can put you in touch with a couple of chief officers that could get that done for you.
Right.
I mean, let me get wording a little bit better. That we could put you in touch with a couple of chief officers that might be able to assist you with that.
Yes.
Austin, why is there a foreign entity being able to contact our governor's office and work through the governor's office to be able to get the Turtle Center changed, modified in what it is doing outside of the elected arm, for example, or outside of the knowledge of the people of the Cayman Islands, period.
Right.
So in other words, what they're really saying is those Caymanians should not be allowed to eat turtle meat.
Right, right.
I don't care if it's their heritage, tradition, whatever it is. Stop it.
Right.
Stop eating turtle meat.
Yeah.
And you're working through the governor's office, and let's facilitate them. Come on, I don't think that's right. And I think people need to be aware of that. There's some of these bodies that are set up, and they're not necessarily working in Cayman's best interest.
Right.
They have their own agenda.
Yes.
And I have that documentation. It is a FOI. And for persons who might have lost their minds, memory, you remember the Operation Tempura, right?
Oh, yeah.
What did that one cost us? $14 million?
Something at least.
Now, Austin, what would they do to you as an elected official if you went out and just wasted $14 million?
Well,
I'm thinking, I see a noose.
They would hang you from the highest tree.
Yeah.
And make sure that you didn't go back.
Or a low one, but that just isn't low enough just to completely pee you off because you know you were that close to living, right?
You were that close. Right.
Know, like his toes were like 5 inches away from the ground. So bottom line is $14 million wasted. And remember what the UK said. They did not even want to release the report. The argument was, if we release this report, the information therein might prejudice the relationship between the Cayman Islands and the UK.
Right.
Now, what could a loving mother do that would bring that sort of strife between her and her children?
Yes.
I definitely tell you it wasn't anything nice.
No, it wasn't.
So please understand that don't let all these people fool you. You know, fighting to get their jobs back. And I don't know. Bottom line is, actions speak louder than words. I think the government, and I would happily have them here on the program. We got to reach out to them.
Sure.
But bottom line is that I think that if I had to put my hat on and guess what they're doing, they're saying, listen, we need to get this road fixed.
Yeah.
And we need some people that can be able to make a decision and get this road fixed. And as I said yesterday, experts on top, not my words, Winston Churchill. Experts on top, not on top. Alrighty, now it's 5:40. My, how time flies, Austin.
Well, I'm actually trying to find what the acronym WISPA stands for, but I'm getting all sorts of different different responses. And
I think they've changed it to WSPA. They're kind of shortening it up. But
okay.
Yeah.
Maybe let's see.
Look it up.
WSPA.
Yeah.
WISPA Environmental Group. Let's see.
Yeah, that's it.
Let's see if it'll
sing it.
I'm looking for it. WISPA. Does it tell you?
And they do a lot of whispering too.
They should just come right out and say, this is what we are. But who are we? Let's see.
All you got to just ask yourself,
Doesn't say.
Why is an entity outside, I mean, you talk about lobbying. Why is that entity outside being able to communicate with your governor's office and the governor's office assisting in potentially having changes being made outside of the knowledge of elected officials, and equally, if not more importantly, no one in the country knows.
Yes.
In other words, they're saying we're shutting down their turtle meat, no more turtle meat, and this is going on behind the scenes?
Right.
Come on.
Well, we did have some thoughts, not on the subject at hand, but on a subject that at least one listener, by the way, is tuning in today, live, from Leeds, England.
All right.
So let me read it. Hi, I'm a Caymanian, and I'm listening to you today from Leeds, England. Congratulations on your new talk show. Wishing you the best of luck. So thank you very much, and thank you for tuning in. I would love to hear you talk about the subject. Why does our government feel it is right to create a social divide by forcing work permit holders to attend private school? Why not allow them to pay? Why not allow them to pay to attend public school at a discounted rate? And obviously they're talking about, work permit holders who have children of school age who come here, and I guess the accepted standard is that they are not allowed to register them and enroll them in the public school system, in which the government pays for, but instead requires work permit holders to enroll their children in private school. They go on to say, while this may not be a subject you are speaking on now,
it's a good topic.
I'm 21 years old, and someone just wanted to ask as to why it is and what can be done to address it. I think it's a very valid question.
Definitely.
I certainly don't have an answer for you as to the why, when, and for what reason this is decided.
I can tell you that, way back in the day, I don't remember the exact time, but there was a time that we all kind of went to school together. And where I am not the one who was involved in the decision making and don't recall exactly the specifics, what I do remember hearing is that, and bear in mind that there are a lot of persons in our country, quite understandably so, it seems right, but I don't necessarily think it always works in your favor. But there were those who would have simply said, well, why should they be allowed to come to public school, to be something separate for Caymanians versus the foreign nationals?
Yeah.
And a lot of times you see that, and I remember having major issues as in that same sort of vein when it came to permits. Because a lot of times something that's good for you doesn't seem like it's good for you. It's kind of one of those bitter for the mouth but sweet for the stomach, and vice versa. A lot of times what's sweet to your mouth is really bitter to the stomach. And I can tell you that it's something that many of us have argued before that I think had created a lot of issues. Because rather than ending up where you had these foreign national kids mixing again with the locals, and as they're coming out of school, and are some of what we would call new Caymanians as well eventually, right? Rather than having those relationships being built and that sort of networking happens so that, hey, that person, they're friends when they get out into the working sector and looking out for each other, you end up with that classification now that you have these sort of new Caymanians on the other on one section and the original generational Caymanians on the other side. And a lot of times I think that does not necessarily work out to our benefit.
Yes.
But I think he raised a good point. It should be a discussion.
No, it should be a discussion, and we can certainly say to the listener that it will be a topic that we will seek to research. Certainly, if there's an opportunity to speak to, let's face it, the current premier has been Minister of Education for multiple administrations. Maybe she's aware of it. We have extended an invitation to the premier as well as the deputy premier. The deputy premier, of course, was sought first to discuss specifically the referendum questions. We're still, and I will just add for transparency that we reached out again, trying to.
He's overseas.
He's overseas, so we're waiting till he returns to the island. I think he's at a conference in the Bahamas, if I remember correctly. So he's forgiven, but I know he's tuned in.
Let him slide.
Let him slide just for a little longer.
Yeah.
I know.
To the right, though, not to the left.
No.
That left side.
Well, speaking of sliding to the left,
I do want to say just before you, if you don't mind, I want to thank the young person. I'm not sure if you said male or female. So
as a young person, I didn't quote a gender.
You didn't give a gender. Perfect. No. So the young person who contacted all the way from Leeds. First of all, we really appreciate you listening.
Yes.
And then in addition to that, I want to thank him or her for going ahead and sending us that topic, and encourage other persons. Please feel free to send us those topics so Austin and I can familiarize ourselves with it if necessary, and come back another day and have a good ventilation of it.
Yes.
And of course, if it is something that we might be already knowledgeable about, then we can start spewing immediately.
Spewing immediately. Not to put too fine a point on it, but yes, Ellio, I think you're absolutely right.
Right.
Well, yes, no, this is the one topic that we're not 100% familiar with. I don't know why it is. I don't know what we don't know what the thinking was, but it is a conversation that we will follow your lead on, and you can count on it. You will definitely hear that conversation hosted on this program. Taking a further look at the headlines from the left, and that's all we're going to say on that subject.
Yeah.
Another interesting, if not controversial, situation on the heels of a national election, but certainly not the first time this has happened.
I'm dying to hear this.
The Office of the Ombudsman has found in the Cayman Islands government's favor and ruled that a report by a ministry task force into the country's housing crisis can remain secret. Although the work was conducted using public money, and the government said it would help them tackle one of Cayman's major social challenges, neither its findings nor recommendations have been revealed to the people. The technical working group of the Interministerial Housing Task Force was established in 2022, and the Cayman Islands government also spent on engaging consultants to help it, undermining its claims that the report is a collection of cabinet deliberations and therefore cannot be released. In a ruling delivered Wednesday afternoon, Ombudsman Sharon Rolston said that because the report was a cabinet document and a preparatory step in the development of a comprehensive housing policy, the report is protected under Section 19(1)A of the Freedom of Information Law because it includes opinions, advice, and recommendations. The confidential nature of these deliberations is fundamental to the effective functioning of Cabinet, and disclosure of such explanatory work would undermine its purpose, she said. And I would just say two things. First of all, there's nothing untoward about that. Cabinet requests and does studies all the time on a variety of topics that perhaps they want to write or draft policy on, but until they've had the time to digest it, again, a technical working group, commissioning a report in this area, may be heavily weighted on the side of the opinion of whoever's writing that recommendation. And Cabinet takes the time to say, well, okay, I hear what you're saying. Do the facts bear out and the realities on the ground?
Well,
Let's examine it. But I think everyone would agree that we are faced with a housing crisis in the Cayman Islands. And when we do reports like this, that we spend public funds in order to complete, the public has an expectation to be able to receive in due time, the details that came from that study. But the key word here being in due time.
I think it would be interesting to see exactly what went on, because the first thing that comes to my mind hearing you read that is, isn't the decision making in terms of releasing a document simply the FOI office? I don't know if there's some merger between the two. Why is the ombudsman involved with that? So it sounds like something may have went a step further, why the ombudsman had to get involved and actually give a ruling.
Yeah.
But if I could give Austin an example of it, perhaps, I'm just pulling it out of the air, but to try to give an example of this sweet to the mouth, bitter to the stomach, or vice versa. I've even heard Caymanians, for example, and this I'm pointing this back to my comment earlier about the schools, where you can see that many persons would probably say, yeah, they shouldn't be able to go to school with my kids, whatever. They should have to pay. And we take that and we think that gives a certain, good feeling. Again, sweet to the mouth, possibly bitter to the stomach. One of those I've seen is I've heard Caymanians, some Caymanians even say, we should have a minimum wage just for Caymanians.
Right.
It should be $15 for Caymanians. And you say, yeah, but if it was $6 for everyone else and it was $15 for Caymanians, there's one of those sweet to the mouth, bitter to the stomach, because that would be all the more reason to not hire a Caymanian.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to pay you $15.
Right.
And that just makes the $6 guy look even better.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of things that you can say and it sounds good. But the practicality and the plan sound good. It was the implementation that
was good. They got messed up. Quite right. And we can certainly draw a reference to that statement.
Yeah, we got a couple of those.
One more example. Just to, again, follow up on the statement that you made in the context of the housing report.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the media house from the left did include the decision from the Ombudsman Office, which begins, in the summary, it says, an applicant made a request to the Cabinet Office under the Freedom of Information Act for a report completed by the Technical Working Group of the Interministerial Housing Task Force. The applicant requested records of all correspondence and documentation of work done on the report, including the 27 recommendations since its approval by the Cabinet. The records in question were prepared for Cabinet deliberations, a type of record protected against public access. So that's how, to your point, the Ombudsman got involved. And an FOI was first issued, and that FOI was denied. An appeal was made.
That's what I thought.
And then the Ombudsman was brought in to obviously
review that decision.
Review that decision. And in this case, they found in favor of the government that the government has this right to withhold this information, albeit a report and a task force that was initiated with public
That's
funds.
what I was thinking, but
it is completely normal, and it is completely allowable, and is not necessarily, I want to just throw this out there, because there are those that will say that any attempt to quiet or quell the truth or full transparency has to be nefarious.
Mm-hmm.
It could very well be nothing nefarious about it at all.
Yeah.
But it could be a situation where, again, we want to verify what was said against what we know to be the relevant facts on the ground.
Absolutely.
Maybe there have been some cabinet comments, and again, whilst I give credit to, and this is probably the only time I give credit to the PACT administration for making the cabinet meetings,
Austin.
Public by sharing at least
only one time you're giving credit.
Well, it was
even the stopwatch is right twice a day. We know this.
I know this, but I figure once is enough. Twice is just making stuff up as you go along.
I don't know.
It was. I'll call it what it was. The PACT administration was a disaster, and I'm not the only one that says that. But they seem to be getting it right on the tail end. Somebody said to me yesterday, "Can you imagine if the government had the same cohesion when their administration began as they seem to be having now as the minority? They certainly are breaking some eggs. They certainly are pushing some boundaries. Whether you agree with those boundaries or not, whether you agree with what they're doing is in the right way, but very clearly they're making some headway."
Well, maybe the PSCT PACT is doing good now because they were like a sick person. When you got a virus, you just need a purge, though, people would say. They got a purge and they're doing better now.
We got a caller on the line. Let's see if we can go to the phone lines before they hang up. Good evening, caller. You're on the air. Hello?
Gone.
Oh, gone.
I want to just offer up a little bit of contribution coming in from two of our good keyboard warriors here.
Please do.
This individual, I give him some good merit. He has some government experiences. That I think he's saying that there was a lack of space on that issue of the schools, so priority had to be given to Caymanian children. So at least that's one argument.
That's plausible.
And this other one is someone saying Singapore keeps expats from locals in the government schools. It has a lot of benefits. Okay.
Yeah, I guess it does. But again, I would just simply say to that argument that, do we want to create a divide right off the bat, or do we want to create a spirit of inclusion? Because oftentimes the critics will say, well, I know how many work permits would come here, but how many of those work permits, as they used to do in the old days, embrace the culture, and how many of them have Caymanian friends?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you, quote unquote, are segmenting them from the get-go, where's the motivation to develop that friendship?
Right.
We do have a caller on the line. They're back. Let's see if we can go to the phone lines. Good evening, caller. You're on the air.
Go on.
Well, they don't like hanging around. But okay. Or maybe we're not answering fast enough. We got 3 minutes to go before we have to pause
you're
and take.
beating yourself up again.
I'm beating myself up again, aren't I? I should stop doing that.
Honestly, I haven't been in the telco business.
You're a good therapist.
But I can tell you that I don't think 30 seconds to a minute is that long for holding.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah. But again, we try, one of the things we're trying to do differently as we did in the past is we've heard the criticisms. We've been down this road before. We do have a tendency to get a little long in the, what do they call it? What do they say?
I have no idea.
I don't know what it is. But yeah,
long-winded.
We get verbose, and once we get on a good conversation, Ellio and I can basically go for hours. But we try to give priority.
This is without a single drink.
This is without a single beverage, quite right.
This is just natural stuff.
Natural stuff. We're high on life.
I don't drink.
But we're certainly going to try to go to the phone lines as quickly as possible without losing our train of thought or without losing, of course, obviously the purpose of the conversation. 745
2626.
2626. Thank you. Ellio is the number. You can pick up the phone, give us a call. If we don't answer right away, then obviously we're slightly busy. I will say, though, to the listening audience that if you are calling, try to do so whilst we're on the air versus when we're off air.
Yeah.
Because, again, that helps. That does help just a little bit. But we'd love to hear from you. Also, of course.
I guess it depends on who you want to talk to, right? If you just want to talk to two of us,
then obviously
off air might be work.
Off air might work.
Yeah.
Also pointing you in the direction of our WhatsApp line. You can dial, send a voice note, or even, as some users are taking it full advantage of right now, sending their comments via WhatsApp. You can do so by doing so at 928-2562. That is our, until we get a new phone, that's our official number for the program.
Noted.
But likewise, if you got that close connection with Ellio, you can write him directly or whatnot. As a member of his contact list, that's altogether also allowable.
It sounds like you're making a dig there, Austin.
I'm not making a dig at all, my friend. Don't be so sensitive.
I think you are.
Don't be so sensitive.
I'm thinking that you're a little bit envious of my long contact list. Well, how many contacts do you have in your phone? The 20 people in your phone, Austin.
Well, you're probably right there. You're probably.
I know you got a whole prospect in there.
Yeah, well, I used to have a whole prospect in there. But they're probably still in there to a large extent. They may have deleted me from theirs long since, but I still have them.
Austin has
on
not
my
forgotten
speed dial list. I have not forgotten them. That's right. It looks like we have another notification. Let me just catch it very quickly. With 53 seconds, it says, 2 things. National Conservation Act does not, as per the Public Authorities Act, designate civil servants as ex officio members. They are full voting members. 2, expat children are allowed in public schools. This policy was changed at work permit board level in 2021. The change no longer requires permit holders to prove they have a private school placement for their children. Public schools now accept expat children, but prioritize Caymanians in registration. So this person wrote it in the sense that they seem to be, as a matter of fact, and we appreciate it. But we do have to pause. We'll pick up on that when we come back, but we do have to pause, take a short commercial break. But do keep it locked. There'll be more Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio still to come in our final segment right here, only on Bobo FM. So yeah, let's see. I don't know who wrote this, but Wilbur. Wilbur, the chief officer of Ministry of Education. Wilbur, welcome.
Oh, I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Wilbur. Mr. Welcome for that clarification on both.
Ready to elevate HR for your team? Cayman HR has you covered.
Wonderful.
Let us streamline your people processes so you can focus on growing your business. As gold partner for top HR software Bamboo HR, we now offer an integrated payroll solution, KPay. Designed specifically for the Cayman Islands, we can simplify your payroll and save you precious time. With KPay and Bamboo HR, managing your team has never been easier. Visit caymanhr.com to learn more today. Cayman HR. When it comes to people, we've got your back.
The BBC World Service, the world's radio station.
The BBC World Service makes programs with a uniquely global perspective.
Enlighten us. Where do we start?
The latest world news and current affairs.
The very best in global arts and culture.
What has been happening on the financial markets today?
Social issues, political stories.
Everything was there in a way that I never heard before.
The BBC World Service.
The home of the BBC World Service. This is Bobo FM.
At Integra Healthcare, we're proud to offer the services of 2 expert dermatologists with extensive UK consultant experience. Our dermatologists specialize in skincare detection and management, general dermatology, pediatric dermatology, skin lesion evaluation, skin cancer identification, and a full range of clinical dermatology conditions. For appointments, you can visit integra.ky/dermatology or call 745-7450. Dermatology care as it should be.
BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine has held talks with the US Vice President J.D. Vance as a rift grows between the US and Europe over how to end the war in Ukraine. The prospect of a peace deal has dominated discussions at the Munich Security Conference after Donald Trump blindsided European leaders by opening negotiations with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Our chief international correspondent Lise Doucette is there.
First of all, there's great relief among the Europeans, among the Ukrainians, that at last, after 3 years of a grievous war, that peace talks, or at least discussions about peace talks, are finally on the table. But there is great worry, too. This is a very troubled Munich Security Conference, probably one of the most troubled it's seen in its 61-year history, that they really feel what they regard as the foundation of this, what they call a transatlantic partnership, is falling apart.
Earlier, Mr. Vance shocked many delegates to the conference with a speech attacking European countries for what he called a retreat of fundamental values. He characterised attempts in Europe to combat online disinformation as censorship and claimed those who expressed populist views were being repressed. Mr. Vance also called for a bigger role for Europe's hardline anti-migration parties. Here's our diplomatic correspondent, James Landale.
J.D. Vance accused leaders in Munich of ignoring the will of the people, claiming voters were being censored and repressed for expressing populist views and religious beliefs. European allies may be used to American lectures, especially on the need to spend more on defence, but it may have come as a surprise to hear a diatribe about democracy and media freedom from an administration that bans reporters from the White House and empowers unelected billionaires to sack federal employees. Rarely has the transatlantic relationship felt so poor.
The leader of the M23 rebel forces sweeping through eastern Congo says his fighters have entered the key city of Bukavu. Corneille Nangaa said operations in the city, home to about 1 million people, would continue into Saturday. Our Africa regional editor is Will Ross.
There have been some videos circulating showing Congolese troops leaving the city of Bukavu, as well as Burundian troops who were allied to the Congolese army leaving the city, suggesting that there's not really a great attempt to hold on to this territory, partly, I guess, because they know they're completely outgunned by a very well-armed rebel group that's backed by Rwanda. Certainly no sign yet of the kind of resistance that there was when the rebels came close to the city of Goma before attacking it.
World News from the BBC. The head of the Africa Centres for Disease Control says African leaders have agreed to increase their health budgets and taxes to create alternative funding for medical services. Dr. Jean Kaseya told the BBC that the heads of state gathered for the African Union Summit plan to reduce their reliance on donors following the freeze on foreign aid by the United States. The UN peacekeeping mission in Lebanon says a convoy of its staff heading to Beirut airport has been attacked. UNIFIL said one vehicle was set on fire and the force's outgoing deputy commander was injured. It's demanding a full and immediate investigation. Attacks on peacekeepers are illegal under international law. Police in Ecuador say gunmen have shot dead an Air Force colonel in the port city of Guayaquil. Colonel Porfirio Cedeño led a special unit targeting criminal gangs and drug traffickers. The vehicle used in the attack was later found burned out. Two of the world's top chess players have signed deals to join a professional competitive video games team. The announcement follows the decision to officially add chess to this summer's Esports World Cup in Saudi Arabia. Five-time world champion Magnus Carlsen and world number 2 Fabiano Caruana have agreed deals with the Dutch club Team Liquid. Andrew Rogers reports.
Chess is one of the world's oldest games, tracing its roots back to the 6th century AD. So you might not think it has much in common with any of these.
Going dark.
Call of Duty, Fortnite and Street Fighter, all games included in the first Esports World Cup last summer. But for 2025, chess is joining the lineup, thanks to its popularity in online contests. That's led to a scramble from competing esports teams to sign the best players.
BBC News.
The views and opinions expressed on Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio do not necessarily reflect or represent the views of Stingray Media, its staff, or contributors. Callers to the program accept full responsibility for the views expressed. The show host and affiliates are not liable for any statements made or any harm claimed. All callers to the program indemnify Straight Talk from all claims. Offensive, defamatory, or unlawful content will not be tolerated. Be a part of the conversation by calling 745-2626. Now, here's Straight Talk with Austin and Ellio on Bobo FM.
And welcome back, K-Man. I'm your host, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon, right here on 89.1 FM in that last lap, I think we could probably call it. So either way, welcome in. We're going to be chatting a little bit. Only a couple of minutes left here in the studio. How time flies. 6:07 on my watch.
6:07 on my watch as well. 745-2626. The phone lines are open. You can share your thoughts, comments, and opinions with us, or you can choose to send us a note, either a voice note if you want your comments shared on air, or you can just simply send us a comment to some of the commentary that is being discussed. I want to apologize to listeners, but in particular, the writer of that last message to us during the break. My mistake, I clearly admit it. The microphones was still on for a brief moment, and at which time, of course, listeners were enabled to hear some of our internal off-mic, what's supposed to be off-mic conversation, but in particular identifying the person who shared that last message was not intentional, so I certainly apologize to that member. But if we take on board the commentary that he shared with us over the mistake, again, two comments that we made on the program. One was that I made relating to the National Conservation Act. Does not appear on the Public Authorities Act designate civil servants as ex officio members. They're all voting members. That is, of course, the two Department of Environment members, the one Department of Agriculture member, and the one member from the Department of Planning. I said they were ex officio non-voting, but they are in fact voting members, and they make up those four make up the 13 overall members. But in particular, to the question that came to us all the way from Leeds, England, that expat children are in fact now, as of 2021, allowed into public schools, whilst acknowledging that it was once a policy. This policy was changed at the Work Permit Board level in 2021. That change, again, no longer requires work permit holders to prove they have a private school placement for their children when they come to the island, and obviously list them as their dependents. Public schools now accept expatriate children, but prioritize Caymanians in registration, going back to the point I think that you made, Ellio, that it was done on the basis of limited space at the time, but certainly that seems to have been corrected with the construction of expanded classrooms and expanded school sites. But now work permit holder and their children can go, they have the choice. They can go to public school or they can go to private school, and that was changed in 2021. So hopefully that satisfies both the listener in Leeds, but at the same time anyone else in the listening audience who may have been curious about that. And I would just state that that message came from someone who's absolutely in the know. It was an individual from within government. I will not further elucidate the identification because, well, it just simply wasn't done. Not necessary. You can take my word for it, though, that it is official commentary, and the information I take to be absolutely correct. So I thank that individual for tuning in and sharing those thoughts with us. 745-2626 is the number, or you can simply WhatsApp us at 928-2562, or you can share some comments and feedback on our social media platform. Obviously, we're simulcasting live on YouTube at Straight Talk Show on YouTube, and also on Instagram vis-a-vis a media partner, the Rec Room 345. That's REC Rec Room 345 if you want to pick us up on streaming video on Instagram. Again, encouraging our followers. This is episode 5, our 5th day back on the air again.
A week is gone.
A week has gone by so very quickly, and what's even more so, the better part of almost 2 hours has blown on by. We have just 20 minutes remaining in today's show for this week, and I think it's been a tremendous success. I don't know about you, but I do know about you because we've had these conversations already. But
yeah, you're doing.
I'm loving being back on the air with you. I mean, I really am.
Same here.
I really am.
I'm enjoying it.
It is nostalgic, but it's
We're
going to
have to sing before we leave. It's Friday. People are stuck in traffic, Austin.
Bars are all closed.
But I am going to promise to see if I can do some digging and research on this National Conservation Law and the committee specifically, because there's some interesting things that come out of that.
Yes.
And again, when you even ask yourself, why would you have it that you have a particular committee or a board that government is supposed to have difficulty removing? Why is that? Is that really appropriate? Was there some kind of a special law? How many other cases reflect that? Or is that just a very unique one?
Yes.
A lot of questions to be asked.
Indeed. Well, again, obviously we started off our 5 o'clock hour with news that the former, now terminated members of the National Conservation Council have sought to seek judicial review on the decision by the cabinet to have them replaced, citing various reasons, but not least of which that their termination without cause was contrary to the public authorities law, as well as the termination of a large majority, 6 out of the 7 appointed members, also being contrary to the public authorities law. The 3, I guess in legal terms, plaintiffs are seeking judicial review and are asking the government to reconsider the decision to fire them and their colleagues, giving the government a deadline of February 20th, which I think is Monday. Not Monday, but a few days from now, whenever that is. But yeah, February 20th is their deadline. We'll see what that is. February 20th would be next week, Thursday, to respond to their letter, which was written by their legal representative, Nelson Legal. Otherwise, they will be filing for a judicial review to challenge the government's decision to replace the 6 members.
My letter appointment simply says you serve at the leisure of cabinet.
Yes.
It tells me, and again, I'm understanding that this is different. That needs some investigation, but my letter would simply say you're serving at the pleasure of the government or cabinet.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I'm being overly simplistic, but again, whether I'm working private sector or public sector, I do have a certain position as it references to my employer.
Yes.
I think if my employer wants to get rid of me, it's your company, buddy.
Yes.
I don't even know if you really need to have a reason, because what am I going to fight you? I'm going to fight you. I don't like your reason, and then stay around. You really want to work somewhere somebody doesn't want you to work?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Doesn't sound like a great environment to me.
Yeah, no kidding.
But who knows? I don't know. I guess it depends on how desperate you are for a job. But clearly, I know the government, if they have an agenda, I'd like to hear exactly what it is. But I believe, just a lucky guess, just a guess, that people want to see the road, et cetera, and stuff going through. And I don't necessarily believe it's because somebody's got $1 million to make, as some person would suggest. I think people want to get some things done. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever worked in the government, you know sometime what they say about civil servants, which I have lots of friends as civil servant. I was once a civil servant, but they say civil servants are like nails without head. You can drive them in, but almost impossible to get them out. And they say that managing the situation sometimes like pushing a chain up the hill.
Right.
It can be challenging at times. And I think that just maybe, these members are working in that particular direction.
Right.
6:15 right here in the studio. Your two hosts, Austin and Ellio Solomon. And, of course, it is 89.1 FM. Spread the word. Want person to go on and see if they can like our Facebook page. Hopefully we'll be doing some streaming next week. I look forward to that. And, again, thanking the persons who sent up texts in terms of specific topics that they want to have. If there's a specific topic that you would like to have, please send us that so that we can add that to our laundry list.
Indeed.
Add it to our laundry list so that we can go ahead and do some research if necessary and have some wonderful discussions on it. Ventilate the topics properly.
That's right. I don't know of any weekend activities that are coming up, and they're not too, well, certainly over the weekend. I don't have any, and I haven't received any notices, but by all means, if there's anything exciting, social or otherwise, cultural heritage or otherwise,
let me know, right?
Let us know. I'll let you know, but I'm just obviously putting a call out there to members of the public if there's anything important.
I think we need to come up with a good excuse for the guys that didn't get flowers and chocolate today. We need to help these people.
We do. Well, happy Valentine's Day nonetheless for those who did get the flowers and the chocolate. I believe in particular to the ladies. Happy Valentine's Day.
I think we should try to give them a good wording. Like what are you going to say to her when she looks at you and said, hey, chocolate,
what's up?
Flowers, what happened?
Well, you simply say, listen, baby, I can give you flowers that are going to wither in the vase, or I can give you my eternal love in time. And that's what I chose to give you instead.
Yeah, I'm thinking something like that, too.
Something like that works, right?
It's like, hey, babe, listen, one thing you have to know is that thing is dying from the moment you cut it from the stem. And I don't believe a woman as beautiful as you should be dealing with anything that's dead or dying. I want you to know that I love you. Come on, work with me, Austin. How's it sounding?
Sounded pretty good, man. It sounded almost, I dare say, rehearsed. It's like,
no.
Have you said this before?
No,
You're just thinking on your feet, huh?
Yeah, I'm quick on my feet. I'm quick like that.
Years and years of marriage have taught him well, to not get caught off guard. This was my plan all along.
I don't want to give you anything that I have to sit there and endure watching it just wither.
Yes, quite right.
So I thought I'd take you out to the cinema tonight.
Thanks a lot. Well,
take you out to a nice restaurant.
Of good news, and again, with 10 minutes left, going back to the pages of the community pages of the Compass, and it is Valentine's Day, so we'll just throw it out there. It says, the headline starts, a love story spanning 7 decades. You've been married or you've been together 70 years. But obviously referring to Roy and Reva Bodden, not Roy Bodden from the university. This is Glenroy Bodden, the musician, and I believe he was an educator at one stage, if I'm not mistaken.
Go for it.
But both of whom have their roots in Cayman Brac, but are celebrating almost 7 decades together, the power of love that endures over time, and to hear words of wisdom on how to build a long-lasting marriage. Mr. Roy, 88, Miss Reva, 87. You want to read their story of enduring love and how they've managed to keep it together for 7 decades? Well, by all means, check out the Compass online.
This is probably one of those stories where the gentleman gives you 2 words. She's right.
Yeah, she's right. I tell you what, how to keep it together for sure. That's the secret to marriage.
You're right, honey.
Yes, dear. Learn those 2 words, and you might actually go the distance. You don't have to bite your lip. Just yes, dear.
Boy.
What did you say? Happy wife, happy life.
Something like that. I don't like the saying, but hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, if I'm ever in doubt,
I'll pick up the phone. Let me get myself. Hey, we can get the calls coming in now. Can you make a wife happy? Is a question. Can you make a woman happy, Austin? Has this ever worked for you?
I'm definitely not the wrong one to ask that question to. It just does
we
not
should have topics like this,
Oh, you think so?
That should stir stuff up.
That would stir stuff up.
Yeah.
It certainly would. It certainly would.
I was telling a friend of mine, do you ever notice that a woman is allowed to slap you once, twice, 3 times a lady? But, of course, don't reverse it. Look, the sexual harassment discussion that you're getting into.
Speaking of which, I think that's landmark legislation. I think it's, again, positive news from the government side. It was on our agenda to address this week, but we haven't done it yet because it's rather comprehensive. But maybe as I
don't know, sexual harassment legislation in the Caribbean. That should be interesting.
Well, I tell you what, it's. I'm glad you say that, because
how does that define that?
I don't worry. I wonder how that is going to play out, because we are affectionate in the Caribbean.
Hey,
it doesn't
sweetheart.
necessarily mean we're having sexual undertones. But there is a hang on.
Yeah, go ahead.
There is a question of maintaining a standard of professionalism in the workforce. Again, this is certainly what the anti-sexual harassment bill, now law, provides for.
That's all where it gets kind of vague, right? Because just think about how many times, like I remember having, one particular meeting, not calling any names, and the person says, okay, yeah, something to sweetheart. But I think, generally speaking, I don't think that was intended. It's just a term of endearment, just saying something nice. Hi, my lady, come on in, sweetheart. I don't know. The world's getting very complicated.
Well, we got a comment, but I don't really know. I think it's like a half a comment. It says, "Hi, I'm a USA British citizen. I visit the Cayman Islands on cruises. Likewise, my husband and I come here a few times a year. My question is, Hell City, doesn't the government want medical tourism? Americans want this, especially seniors." And that's where it ends. So I don't know if there was more to this comment.
Accidentally hit the fire button.
Maybe they hit send too early. I mean, I thank you for tuning in. I thank you for your commentary, but the statement seems to sort of end abruptly, as if there was a wider point that you wanted to make. And if you're still listening to us, by all means, share that wider point, and maybe we can ask it for you. But again, I mean, if you're talking about Hell City, I mean, they certainly are growing. Some might argue they're growing beyond the remits of what was their original proposal, and I don't think anyone would argue that, except maybe Hell City. But nonetheless, they are also quickly becoming the hospital of choice to a lot of folks. And again, this is not me talking, out of thin air. This is, direct commentary that I've heard and received over the years from people, and also seen firsthand. But again, the writer asked the question, don't we want medical tourism? And I would imagine we do. And by all indications, we seem to be getting that, particularly from the Caribbean with Hell City. But I haven't explored this conversation any further than that with any of the persons behind the scenes. But certainly if the writer would seek to expand on it, we certainly will, review the expanded question or comment in the 6 minutes that we have remaining. But again, it could also be something we add to the ongoing conversation list.
Definitely, I think that's a discussion worth of having. Again, something else that we can look into all the particulars, because having been in the government around that time with the whole issue of the Health City, it would definitely seem, I remember them being cornered specifically to deal with, medical tourism.
Yes.
Not necessarily. And I think...
Accident and emergency,
I think
for
it might have
example.
also been some specific tertiary services, that what you would have had to travel overseas for.
Yes. It was.
And it definitely seems like it's expanded.
It was strongly stated emphatically that the introduction of Hell City, when they first came on the scene, would not be competing with any of the existing. I don't know when it all changed, but certainly, we see. Well, first of all, they got the new hospital there by Cayman Bay. It's there on big, bold, highlighted. Lighted sign that says, emergency and
nice building.
Whatever. A beautiful building. And I'm sure they continue to offer fantastic, top-notch medical care. This is not a question of the service deliverable, but one could argue, I think legitimately so, that somewhere, somehow along the lines, they expanded beyond their original remit. I don't believe they would do so without permission. So again, some administration probably allowed it, probably amended their contract offering. But it is a question, I think, worth asking. When did this change, and who took the decision, and why? But nonetheless, Hell City has expanded its services. They're now an accident and emergency. This started, mind you, before they moved into their new premises on the Cayman Bay grounds. But arguably, this was an area they weren't supposed to invest into and branch off into when they first got here. But that, too, is a conversation worth having. And to the writer's point, I think they certainly are doing rather well on cruise tours. Yeah, I can help myself.
That's
on
all
the
right.
medical tourism side I almost did it with 4 minutes left.
Austin,
I'm dragging you back into this conversation.
All I can say is we've done so well so far.
We have, and we got 4 minutes left. Don't go there. Don't go there. Leave it alone.
We're going to end this day properly.
Yeah.
We can do this together.
We can. Well, again, with 3 minutes left, and let me just read you part 2 from the sexual harassment in terms of what this act seeks, what this law or act now seeks to do. It says it now makes any unwelcome sexual advance towards a person illegal, making an unwelcome sexual comment to a person illegal, making an unwelcome sexual comment about a person in their sight or hearing illegal, making an unwelcome sexual gesture to a person illegal, providing a person with unwelcome sexual images or graphics illegal, making it appear to a person seeking employment that the offer of employment or the terms of employment are contingent on the person's acceptance of sexual advances. I call that the Harvey Weinstein principle. Making it appear that the person will receive...
The Weinstein provision.
The Weinstein provision, yes. Making it appear that a person will receive preferential treatment or other advantage in the employment context only if that person submits to sexual harassment, illegal, the Harvey Weinstein principle, directly or indirectly engaging in any other form of unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature. It also requires that every employer shall formulate a policy statement dealing with sexual harassment, creating the pathways in which employees can openly report and, of course, expect resolution to any complaints of sexual harassment or otherwise. Again, in the Cayman Islands and in the wider Caribbean, we hug. I'm a hugger. It doesn't necessarily mean anything at all, but perhaps that is wrong in the professional office environment, and it should be obviously discouraged. The anti-sexual harassment
How do you determine what's welcome or not welcome?
Well, obviously, I guess it's the person who receives it, how they feel. You
can just vary from person to person.
It could very well be that simple.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with you hugging me, Austin.
Yeah, well, again,
this hugger thing has got to stop.
Yeah, which is fine. Say that once, and if it happens again, then obviously we have a problem.
And you've already done it.
Yeah, I've done it, but I did it, perhaps innocuously. I wasn't doing it on purpose or whatever.
Poor Austin's already defending.
I am defending. I'm thinking about it, because again, I'm a hugger.
It's messing my head up.
It's really messing my head in. Thank you, Ellio. I appreciate
just slap your arms.
You just want to stress me out going into the weekend, don't you?
Well, I don't know what to say about this. I don't know.
No, I don't know either. But we'll explore the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act in a more comprehensive manner next week. And the writer just says, yes, I did press the trigger too soon. I'm a cancer patient on Medicare, plus retired. I believe Panama accepts our insurance, as they have done Johns Hopkins Hospital there, and you have hospitals affiliated with Baptist Hospital in Miami and the Miami Cancer Institute. I'm sure people would prefer to pay and do their treatment in the Cayman Islands. I would for sure. Caymankind has got that healing effect. Well, I'd agree with you on that one, and I'm glad to hear you say that. Obviously, this is another question that we can add to the topic.
But of course, Doctors Hospital deals with medical tourism too, right?
Yeah, quite right, they do. So this is a conversation that we will certainly add to it. I think the writer was asking on the broader level, doesn't the government want to encourage medical tourism? And I would think the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
But that is all the time we have for you today on this Valentine's Friday. Thank you to all the listeners who tuned in and made the show possible. We are your hosts, Austin Harris.
And I'm Ellio Solomon. And thank you very much for listening to us today. And don't forget to tune in on Monday, 4:30, right here on Bobo 89.1 FM.
The BBC on